Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So now we will come to the summary and analysis of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrok. I will do the summary of the first part, which I explained when I read the poem, but later we will move to the themes, okay? And we will see what themes this poem has, okay? So let's start with the summary of the first part, which is after the epigraph, which was written with Italian language. So which is, we will start with the part which start with let's go, then you and I. Okay, so here we said that Prufrok is the speaker and he invites someone. We don't know who that one is, but he says you and I. So you could be a friend of him, or it could be the reader. And actually near the end of the poem, in the last 3 lines, we would discover that it is actually the reader. So what does he tell the reader? Let us go. When the night sky is spread out like a patient anesthetized on an operating table, let's walk down half empty streets. Do you remember when we talked about the streets? They were half deserted, so there weren't many people in those streets, which are marked by sleepless, cheap hotels where people only stay one night. So this is an indication that their life was actually changing a lot, and they weren't they don't have roots, they don't have real connection of the word. That's why they just spend one night and move and buy shabby run-down restaurants. Okay, so also they will go to the restaurants. The streets follow each other like a boring argument, so you would get lost in those streets. So do you remember when we said that one of the themes is feeling lost or loss? So that's the idea of the streets following each other like a boring argument. They actually make you get lost with malicious intentions. Malicious intentions, it means hostile intentions. اللي هي يعني نوايا عدائية. يعني تخيلوا الشوارع متداخلة في بعضها وماشي هيك بطريقة وملتفة بطريقة يعني عدائية. يعني أنت you feel that you are lost inside them. They make you think of some urgent question. لدرجة إنه أنت لما تشوف هذه الشوارع تسأل نفسك في سؤال على طول بيجي على مخك أو على مخك اللي هو the urgent question. But do you remember when we said that Prufrok prevents us from asking this question, but don't ask what it is. Let's go and make our visit. بس امشي ما تسألش. ما تسأل عن أي شيء. Just go and make the visit. Women enter and exit the room while talking about Michelangelo. Do you remember Michelangelo? So actually, who's Michelangelo? We don't know. It seems that Prufrok is, or Eliot, if we want to talk about the poet, is mentioning things that are without meaning, okay? Actually, this is a reflection of the life itself. And here he mentions the women because Prufrok actually, he was focusing on the women in this poem. And he tries to attract them or get them admire him. But because he was getting old and he was aging, he thought that nobody cared about them. Though inside him, his outside appearance could occur as an old man, but inside him, his heart was full of life and feelings. But he wasn't actually, he couldn't dare speak to any woman because he thought that he will be rejected. Now yellow smoke rubs its back against the windows. It rubs its snout all over the windows, licks the corners. So as if this smoke is actually a cat, licks the corners of the night with its tongue. Can you see this metaphor? So as if the yellow smoke is a cat and it is going around the corners, okay? Lingers above the stagnant water in the drains, okay? mingles with soot from the chimneys. So look here at the site of the city. There is soot coming out from chimneys, and we have the yellow smoke. So here it seems that there is a reference for the pollution in the city. But you shouldn't confuse the idea that also this smoke, which he saw as a cat, could represent Prufrok himself. He was the one outside when in the streets looking from outside the windows to the people, because he wanted to find someone to accept him. So actually it could also be his desires. That cat could be a symbol of his inner desires towards being with people, with women, those desires that he is unable to fulfill because he is getting old. Okay, but seeing that it's a cool autumn night, curls around the house and fades away. So you see he's around the houses. Yes, there will be time to look at the yellow smoke that slides along the streets, rubbing itself against the windows. So here it seems that he's talking about himself, rubbing itself against the windows. He was looking from outside the windows. He was feeling alone, lonely actually. Okay, there will be time to prepare to meet people, to murder and create, for work and answering questions. Time for both of us, and there will be time still for 100 indecisions. تخيلوا, usually we want time to for decisions, but actually for Prufrok they were indecisions. It was the opposite. كان بدل ما بده ياخد قرارات التراجع عن القرارات أو إسقاط القرارات. To change my mind 100 times. حتى معي وقت أغير رأيي زي ما بدي. All before afternoon tea. تخيلوا من الصبح لحد موعد الشاي العصر أنا قادر أفكر في أشياء كتيرة إنه هي لازم تنعمل، لكن أسقط كل القرارات. يعني أخذ قرار وأسقط القرار، أخذ القرار وأسقط القرار. ما أنا معي وقت كتير، إيش أعمل فيه؟ حياتي ما فيش فيها شيء، فإيش أعمل فيها؟ So I can spend my time thinking about doing things and deciding not to do things. Thinking to decide to do something and thinking or deciding not to do that thing. Okay, now I don't want to go any further, but if you are interested in the rest of the stanzas and the rest of the summary, so I would recommend that you go here on this website. There are actually there is analysis line by line. So every line you would have an analysis or summary of it, or translation in English, or in understandable idea in English. Okay, fine. So now actually I'm interested in talking about the themes. There were actually a number of themes that we need to talk about in Prufrok, and in these themes, with these themes actually, we would connect between this poem and the values of modernism. Okay, so theme number 1 is anxiety, theme number 2 is indecision, theme number 3 is inaction. I think you can notice the relationship between them. Anxiety, القلق. He was actually afraid and anxious that people will judge him if he does even the simplest thing. فكان من كتر ما هو قلقان من حكم الناس عليه، okay، كان يعني مش قادر يعمل شيء. Indecision, his inability to take any decision, okay, and inaction, his inability to act. So these were the 3 themes in our poem. So let's come to support them, these themes, by argument from the poem itself. Now the speaker in the poem is paralyzed, مشلول, by indecision, مشلول بعدم قدرته على اتخاذ القرارات. By depicting the speaker's intense struggle with indecision, the poem suggests that excessive preoccupation, حطوا خط تحت preoccupation, okay, it is very important point. Preoccupation with doing the right thing. أوكي. الآن الإنسان في ناس بتكون يعني عندها هوس اسمه أو تخوفات من إنه هي الشيء اللي بدها تعمله هل حيكون الشيء الصحيح ولا مش الشيء الصحيح. طب يمكن لو عملته الناس كلها تلومني. فكترة التفكير excessive preoccupation with doing the right thing, whether when expressing yourself, forming relationships with others, or simply deciding how to style your hair or what to eat, can actually stop a person from ever venturing forth into the world. إذا لازم نعرف إنه أحيانا التفكير المستمر والخوف من حكم الناس علينا، سواء when expressing yourself لما بنتكلم ونعبر عن نفسنا، forming relationships عمل علاقات مع الناس with others, or simply deciding how to style your hair أو كيف حتى الواحد إنه يرتب شعره أو يرتب نفسه أو لبسه أو شو يأكل. يعني عندنا في بروفروك when you read the rest of the poem you would find that he found it difficult to eat a peach. خوخة كان خايف يأكلها because this may make the women laugh at him، لأنه كان في نساء وكان خايف لما يشوف إنه يصيرن يضحكن عليه. تخيل يعني تخيلوا كيف إنه كان paralyzed مشلول تماما because of the preoccupation with doing the right thing. Okay, and that stopped him from venturing forth into the world. venturing forth into the world عشان هيك هو فعليا توقف عن الحياة. يعني كان لدرجة انه بنتظر الموت لانه هو خلاص توقف عن الحياة خوفا من انه الناس تضحك عليه او تحكم عليه بشيء سلبي. Now there is a juxtaposition between action and inaction. We said anxiety, okay, and indecision. So anxiety of the judgment of the people around him, and that led him to be indecisive, unable to take decisions, okay, and that will lead us to the idea of inaction. إذا أنا قلق طول الوقت من حكم الناس ومن رأي الناس، غير قادر على اتخاذ أي قرار حتى لفعل أي شيء، أوكي، إذا في النهاية لن أفعل شيء حتى لا يحكم علي الناس أو لا يلوموني. Okay, so this is the juxtaposition from the beginning. تخيل من البداية. The first line states let us go, implying that the poem will move forward in time and space. It will go somewhere. يعني أنا مجرد أسمع let us go معناه إحنا رايحين لمكان ما. But then nothing happens. ولا بنروح ولا حاجة. Okay? هو بس بضل واقف مكانه يحكي لنا عن الرحلة. There are many streets in the city life, full like a tedious argument of insidious intent. But they look boring and threatening. Then that there is no clearly good path to take. Okay? يعني هو في البداية بيحكي لنا تعالوا نروح، وبعدين بيحكي لنا لا الشوارع انتم مش شايفينها متداخلة مع بعضها ومملة وفيها هيك بتشعر بالخطر ومش واضح أي طريق نروح فيها. And though the speaker says that the streets lead you to an overwhelming question, he says, oh, don't ask. What is it? Maybe the question is just which direction is best to walk in, or indeed where they are going in the first place. Simple queries that become hurdles in the speaker's mind. تخيلوا يعني لأي درجة هو he was anxious and indecisive، لدرجة إنه أبسط الأسئلة بيمنعنا نسأله إياها لأنه بيعتبروا إنه السؤال هذا غريب عجيب وإيش بدي أجاوب عليه. يعني إذا جاوب يمكن نضحك عليه. Okay, so he doesn't want us even to ask him the simplest questions because he is afraid to answer those questions. Okay. Now, the speaker's actions reflect social anxiety. I think we talked about this, okay? So he is paralyzed and he doesn't want to take any decision. In fact, the speaker admits that he finds time for 100 indecisions. تخيلوا 100 indecisions. 100 تراجع عن القرار. and for 100 visions and revisions. وتخيلوا إنه كل ما بده ياخد قرار بفكر فيه وبراجعه مئات المرات all before sitting down his afternoon tea. يعني بقضي يومه من الصبح لعند العصر وهو بس بده يتخذ قرار، يفكر في القرار ويراجع في القرار وتصير عنده وجهات نظر تانية بخصوص القرار ويتراجع عنه ويرجع يجيب قرار جديد. Okay? So he imagines even the simplest things, as we said, he imagines descending the stair and greeting people, but in reality he is too timid to do so because he imagines that people will laugh at his bold spot. تخيلوا هذه الصلعة اللي في راسه هذه عامله له إشكالية على فكرة، لأنه تخيل هو بتخيل إنه طلع الأدراج وهو طالع الأدراج رد السلام على الناس، أوكي، وعادي والناس بس فجأة في خياله بتخيل إنه هدول الناس ضحكوا عليه لما انتبهوا للصلعة اللي في راسه and shabby clothing وملابسه اللي مش مرتبة. Okay, so in reality he doesn't do that. لا بطلع على الأدراج على السلم ولا برد السلام على الناس, which in turn suggests that the speaker is getting older and that he has been wasting his time with all this indecision. هو كان بيكبر في العمر وكان شايف إنه خلص ما حد مهتم فيه وإنه ملوش أي قيمة في المجتمع وأصلا ما فيش داعي للقرارات, بس نضلنا نحاول نتخذ القرار ونراجع القرار وهكذا نضيع العمر. So the speaker asks, how should I begin? That was a point that I explained in the previous video. How should I begin? We said that he was a procrastinator. Procrastinator from procrastination اللي هو التسويف والتأجيل. دايما احنا even not Prufrok only but also for us too. Sometimes there is an exam and you want to study for that exam but you keep yourself actually you keep asking yourself, how should I begin? What should I start with? What should I do for the exam? So you keep wasting your time actually till the last night of the exam and then suddenly you start studying. Okay, so that when he says, and how should I presume? كيف أبدأ? كيف أواصل العمل؟ من وين أفكر? Suggesting that he feels incapable of overcoming the first hurdle to taking action. Of course هو كان غير قادر على التغلب على جزئية البدء بالعمل, إنه يبدأ العمل. He repeats those phrases at the end of two different stanzas, giving the impression of a stuttering or repeated failed start. إذا في كان عنده البدايات دايما فاشلة عنده, ما كان عنده قدرة يبدأ العمل اللي بده يعمله. Okay. There are times when the speaker does seem close to doing something, but the poem ultimately indicates that wanting to act isn't enough. إذن الرغبة, wanting to act, الرغبة في العمل ليست كافية. Every time our speaker wanted to say something, but he doesn't act. So it's nothing. Taking meaningful action, it suggests requires that an individual dare to make a choice. يعني لازم الإنسان يكون عنده الجرأة إنه يختار without being certain that it's the best choice, even if it wasn't the best choice. So the idea is that people should stop to be perfectionists. Perfectionist ناشدي الكمال, يعني I don't want to submit my assignment until I write the best assignment. I don't want to present until I master the presentation and I will be the best in the class. I don't want to speak until my English is fluent and of high standards. So this is actually a kind, we call it, this is negative actually thinking of perfectionism. When you want to be perfect, actually you stop working. You stop, you don't work. And while the speaker thinks he'll have plenty of time to do things, this seems like wishful thinking. هو بس تمني، عندي وقت أعمل كل إشي، هذا في أمانيه. He'll continue to agonize over his choices until there is no time left, his indecision having stopped him from living a full life. Okay, now the second actually group of themes are related to desire, communication, and disappointment. So the first group of themes are related to anxiety. We said, يعني خليني to summarize, he was anxious from people around him, he was getting old, and he was afraid that people would judge him and laugh at him, so he was unable to take decisions, and because he was unable to take decisions, he was unable to act. That's it, okay? So this is the summary of all this explanation. Now let's come to desire, communication, and disappointment. So I will first go through them, and then we can summarize them if needed. Okay, now although the speaker in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrok might appear silent and affectless to others، يعني احنا لما بنسمعه بنقول انه هو يعني شخص عادي وما فيش عنده مشاعر، but actually his interior life is alive with hope and desire. In particular, he appears to have a deep longing for romantic connection. All the time he mentioned the women. He wanted to get connected with a woman, but actually he failed. But he struggles to communicate that desire. He was afraid to communicate. So this is part of his anxiety and indecision, okay, that led to inacting. So he wanted to be with women or with a woman, okay, but actually he was unable to communicate his desire to the woman that he wanted. Okay, so indeed, despite being a love song, we say that this is the love song of J. Alfred. But actually we can't see that in the poem he succeeded to get the love, okay? So actually it's not a love song. The poem never quite manages to discuss love itself. ما فيش فيها حب إطلاقا رغم إنه هي أغنية الحب. Instead it stays bogged down in the false starts. الحب بتبعه بظل تايه في البدايات الخاطئة عنده أو البدايات غير المكتملة، عدم قدرته على اتخاذ القرار، عدم قدرته على التقدم. And half-finished thoughts that characterize the speaker's attempts at connecting with other people. The poem makes it clear that people like the speaker can only really experience love by breaking through these communication barriers, but it also embodies just how difficult doing so can be. إذا القصيدة بتحكي إنه أحيانا الإنسان ممكن ينجح في علاقاته مع الناس أو في علاقته في الحب إذا تمكن من إنه يحطم حواجز التواصل مع الناس. إذا أنا قدرت أتواصل مع الناس ممكن أنجح في علاقتي معهم. But Prufrok and his ways of dealing in this poem shows us how difficult it could be to communicate with people. Okay? So the idea here is just related. He had desires deep inside him. Do you remember the cat that I talked about, the smoke that he depicted as a cat? And we said that that cat and that smoke could be his inner desires. So he had desires deep inside him, but he was unable to communicate those desires, and that led to his disappointment. Okay. Now, the next point is modernity and alienation. Okay, we talked about the theme of alienation, الاغتراب, in modernism, the beginning of the 19th century. So the poem emphasizes exciting features of modern life, like electricity and new medical technologies, but it also suggests that modernity comes with a persistent sense of alienation and isolation from others. Take, for example, today, our age now. People, we have the technology and we have the smartphones and we have the internet, which is supposed to get us connected. But because we are connected to the internet, we are not connected to the people. So today we are connected to the internet, but we are not connected to the people. That's why you would feel alienated, because you are separated from the society around you. You are isolated. And this is clear, especially with the children who stopped to go. I don't know about the children in your area, but I know that many children stopped to go out to play in the street, for example, or in the garden. All they care about is to have a smartphone and to be connected on the internet. So this is the alienation. The technology is increasing our isolation, is fostering isolation instead of actually finishing it. So through the example of the speaker, the poem indicates that the modern condition essentially results in feeling alienated from the world. Especially in the European world, people were focusing on economy, on their economic situation, on working from the beginning of the day till the end of the day. It was a competitive society, and it is still actually. So the people are running everywhere in order to gain money, to be able to handle their life. And because of that, they got actually isolated from each other, and they would feel alienated. Okay, the speaker rarely interacts with actual people, as the streets are half deserted. People are occupied by technology and industry. I hope this point is clear. So because of technology and industry, people are busy and they don't have enough time to talk to each other. So our speaker feels alienated and isolated in his society. The speaker is tired of this new world in which events follow one another in a repetitive cyclical fashion. تخيل لما تعيش حياة كل الأحداث فيها بتعيد نفسها. روتين حياة. نفس الشيء بتكرر كل يوم. This happens actually for many people. He claims, I have known them all already. Known them all. أنا عارف كل حاجة، عارف كل إشي بيحصل، كله أصلا بيعيد نفسه، كله بنعيد نفسه. Have known the evenings، شوف المساءات، mornings, afternoons. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. He suggests that nothing can surprise him anymore. كل الحياة، اصحى الصبح، الظهر، العصر، المغرب، نام، اصحى، اشرب قهوة مثلا، إذا this is the cycle of the repetitive cycle. خلينا نحكيها مش a normal cycle but the repetitive cycle. التكرار فيها. So nothing would surprise him. ما فيش إشي يفاجئه or disturb the normal rituals of the civilized, which is full, the civilized world, which is full of dull activity. يعني الناس, they wake up in the morning, they go to work, they come back from work, they sleep. In the morning they get up early, they go to work, and so on. So this is the repetitive cycle. So there is thus something emotionally deadening. Deadening, it means dying and alienating, and makes you feel alienated about the seemingly empty social rituals that characterize the modern world. So the idea here is that people are busy with technology and industry, and that's why they don't have enough time to socialize with each other, to talk to each other, and that resulted in them feeling isolated and alienated. I hope this summary is clear for you for the idea of modernity and alienation. Okay, now actually this is the same idea. So I talked about it, and I connected it with our life and the existence of technology, however, which was found in order for people to get connected, but actually people are connected to technology but not to each other. Okay, now let's come to literary images. Okay, let me see. Yeah, we are about to finish. Alhamdulillah. Literary images. There are 3 allusions in the poem that I would like to talk about. Of course, this poem is full of symbols, full of metaphors, and if we want to start actually talking about them, we will not finish. Okay, at least I talked about the smoke, the yellow smoke, and the depicting it as a cat, and that the smoke and the cat, the smoke could represent the pollution in the city, but also the smoke and the cat could represent the desires inside our speaker. Now, the important thing that I wanted to focus on are the allusions. I talked about them when we read the poem, so I'll just remind you of these allusions. There are 3 allusions in the poem. Lazarus, okay, اللي هو الرجل اللي عاد من الموت، بعث من الموت، بعثه المسيح عشان يتكلم ويحكي الحقيقة عن الجريمة اللي حصلت. Prince Hamlet حكينا عنه, and John the Baptist. This one I haven't talked about it, so we will focus on it a little bit. He doesn't draw strength or inspiration. Actually, when he mentioned them, he mentioned also that he is not connected with them. He doesn't draw strength or inspiration from these would-be authority figures of literature. Do you remember when we said that one of the characteristics of modernism is that to break up with the traditional sources of authority? So these are authority figures from the past, so he doesn't feel that he is inspired or he gain any strength from them. Okay, so instead they leave him feeling isolated and disheartened. يعني لما بذكرهم هدول كلهم كانوا عظماء في التاريخ ولكن ما فيش أي صلة بينه وبينهم. هو مش حاسس حاله لا عظيم ولا له أي قيمة في الحياة. Okay, so Lazarus was brought back to life after his death by Christ. Prufrok says, Lazarus, come from the hell, not death, to tell you all. أنا جاي من الجحيم. What is the hell? His city, his life, actually. He thinks of himself as one who has been living in the world of dead. أنا عايش في عالم أموات. أنا جاي أحكي لكم الحقيقة عن عالم الأموات اللي أنا عايش فيه. Okay, so the life, his actually the word of dead is different from Lazarus. The Lazarus came from a real word of dead, but Prufrok here he is showing us his city and his life or his word as a word of dead. The contemporary word, this is the contemporary word, is a word of dead men. That is those who are spiritually dead. لازاروس أجاكم من الموت يحكي لكم الحقيقة. أنا والله بعتبر نفسي كمان جاي من عالم أموات. الناس يعني شعورهم مات، أرواحهم ميتة. هم عايشين وماشيين في الحياة بدون روح. okay, as if they are يعني زي الزومبي هيك الناس. okay, لأنه spiritually they are dead. طيب, Prince Hamlet, I talked about Prince Hamlet. We said that he could be like Hamlet and could be not like Hamlet. So like Hamlet and unlike Hamlet. Like Hamlet because he was indecisive. Like Hamlet, he couldn't take a decision. And unlike Hamlet, because he has no sense of responsibility. Hamlet thought that he was responsible about getting revenge. Prufrok said, no, I don't need to do anything. I'm just a servant. أنا يعني كل قيمتي. هاملت كان زلمة عظيم، كان ملك، يعني يقلق براحته. بس أنا إيش؟ أنا بولونيوس اللي هو الخادم. And an old gossipy ineffectual character. أنا حيالله secondary character في الحياة، بس مش زي هاملت. هاملت was a king, was يعني a key figure. He was the protagonist in the play, so he needed to show great deeds. But for me, Prufrok, no, I don't need to do that. The last actually allusion is the story of John the Baptist, is the third literary allusion. Now, John the Baptist, he has an interesting story. He actually opposed a king who killed his brother. The king killed his brother, okay? So John the Baptist blamed him for that and criticized him for that. So what would the king do? He asked Salome to kill him, to cut his head. So he was beheaded for that. Because he defended his point of view. So Prufrok says, why to speak? Why to say anything? I am not John the Baptist. ليش تفكريني يعني John the Baptist؟ أنا prepared to meet a martyr's death. مين قال كنا أنا بدي أكون شهيد وبدي الناس تحكي في قصتي؟ لا أنا ماليش دعوة، أنا مش زيه. تخيلوا يعني he is saying I'm not like Lazarus, I'm not like Hamlet. يعني I'm not like Lazarus coming from the world of the dead. No, I'm coming from a real world, but this world is actually, the people in this world are spiritually dead. I'm not Hamlet, so I don't need to take any decisions. I don't need to act. And I'm not John the Baptist to defend myself and my point of view and to die for that. So John lived for a purpose and died for a cause. Cause يعني قضية. Whereas Prufrok wishes to die because he finds no purpose in living. تخيلوا الفرق بينهم. جون كان له هدف ومات من أجل قضية. بروفروك لا بتمنى الموت، بده يموت، لكن لأنه ما فيش أصلا هدف في حياته. So for Prufrok, he wanted to die not to defend his cause, but because he doesn't have any cause or any purpose in life. As the poet remarks, هي في الآخر بيحكي though I have seen my head grow slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I'm no prophet and here is no great matter. لا أنا نبي ولا الموضوع اللي أنا بدي أدافع عنه أصلا مهم بالنسبة إلي. So let me just die peacefully. Now this is your assignment. Because I don't want you to get over this. I want you now to go and try to find on the internet symbolism in the song, in this poem. I want you just to find 2 symbols in the poem and briefly discuss them. Don't talk about a lot, actually. Don't write a lot. Just 2 symbols and briefly discuss them. Okay, I'll send this assignment inshallah to the Moodle. Okay, thank you very much, and that's the end of this